This is what it is, okay? I said empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
Welcome to the 17th episode of the Deployment Dojo. All right, and I've got too many noises. Once again, I started with everything in the mix. All right, welcome to the 17th episode of the Deployment Dojo. This is a live show where we do everything right here, right in front of you, talking about setup and deployment topics using the WiX Toolset. I'm joined once again with my very good friend and still first student of the dojo, David. David, how are you doing?
Pretty good, thank you.
Oh man, I tell you what, it's been a week. I've already did an hour yesterday at the Deployment Foundation Summit, where I essentially took one of these dojos. Actually, no, I took 3 dojos and squished it into 1 hour and did essentially an hour-long lightning talk to introduce people to all the concepts of WiX 4, like we've been doing here for 16 weeks. This will be our 17th week. It was intense. It was a lot. I had Bob riding shotgun with me, and I feel a little bad because I said, "Hey, Bob, come along for the ride. It'll be fun." And then I essentially just talked through the whole thing, and he only barely got to interject. But we're back here. This is the nice, calm comforts of the Deployment Dojo, and we get to pick up where we left off from last week, which is actually going back 2 weeks. We're doing the last set of variables that I want to talk about. I realize that there's one more set of variables, but they're different. So we will talk about them, but we're talking about bind variables. All right, real quick recap. We have pre-process variables. Those happen like very early in the build process, right out of the bat. You can replace things inside the build. We have localization variables where you can have a localization file, you ship off to other people, they come back, and they are going to jump out and they will spit out extra MSIs for each of those languages. So that happens again in the build, creating different MSIs. And then we talked about how you could configure both directories and properties at install time to override what you built in the install so that people can customize your install. Does all that kind of ring true, Dave?
Yes.
Yes. All right.
Yeah.
Last week, we took a quick detour into library files, a way that we can take a block of setup logic and isolate it into a reusable chunk and potentially like distribute with different teams or different timelines that then contribute to a larger project, right? So it was just a way of kind of isolating a block of logic. And we didn't go into detail of all the different ways. I just wanted to kind of say these things exist, and we'll drill into how you use them as we get bigger and bigger projects. We've also been doing a lot of toy projects, right? Like how many times have we done the console app that's just a console write and then a read key and nothing else?
Right.
And then for how many weeks did we install a text file? a few. And that's all fine. We were just getting basics. We're finally starting to turn around the dojo where we're introducing a little bit more complicated applications. And so that's what I want to do today is I want to introduce a slightly more complicated application, build on our knowledge of WiX libs. We'll reintroduce a WiX lib. Build on where we're at the end of that dojo session last week, which was a 2 MSIs, one which was like the free community version and one which was the enterprise version. I want to build on that scenario with this application that we have here. Does that sound like fun, Dave?
Cool. Sounds cool.
All right, here we go. Here's the code. Here's this application. It's, I don't know, a third more complicated than anything we've done this far because it has one more line of code in it.
Right.
But we're getting there. We're getting there. We know how to install reg keys. We know how to install files. We haven't done a whole lot of other things. We will get there. But given the tools that we have, what this application needs is a registry key that gets written to HKey local machine software Dojo, and we create a type registry key there, and we put a value in there, and whatever value we put there, we will then spit out the line, welcome to that value console app 1. All right?
Oh, okay.
All right. So the idea here is that we're going to have a community version and an enterprise version of our software, and we're going to read which version of the software you have from the registry key. Very secure, right?
Okay.
This is not about security. It's just a demonstration to show, hey, let's tie two pieces together, the running of the application to the registry key being set, and have it show up in the middle. All right.
Okay.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 2 new projects for the MSI projects. So just 2 MSI projects, and we're going to call one community package. Oh, all right. Come on, Visual Studio, warm up. Here we go. Creating package. All right, there we go. Community package. And I'm going to go ahead and set him up so we know what we're doing. We're going to reference the console app 1. We're going to go into example components. So we're going to change example components to be our console app 1.exe, right? We've done this so many times. And then we're going to go here. We're going to change our manufacturer to just Dojo. Okay?
Yep.
And it's going to be called community package is fine. I'm going to put a tilde in front of it, not a bang. How about tilde? In front of it, community package. So this is the community version of what we want to build. We don't have the reg key in yet, right?
Right.
Let's add the reg key. Component. And I don't know why my indentation is now not 2 spaces. I'll have to fix that. It's like something in my last presentation threw it off. So we want to write a registry value. Key equals HK. Oh no, root. Sorry. Root equals HK LM, HKey local machine. Key equals, let's go look at our code since we have it. Software Dojo. So WiX breaks the root key out separate from everything else. All right, so Software Dojo. The name of the key is type. Oh. Type. And the value here, this is the community installer, right?
Right.
So we're going to put community in here. There. Now we have we're going to install our console app 1. We're going to install our registry key. And when we install and run this thing, it should show our, oh, it's giving me tabs. All right. That's why it's upset. All right. That's why I'm not happy with it. Okay. So does that make sense?
Yes, makes sense.
We're installing our console 1 app. We're done. This is community. Let's go ahead and try out the free one, huh? All right. Build. We'll get all that out, and then we're going to spin up the Okay, cool. I don't want to deal with that problem first. All right, I want to point out something. This program is a 32-bit program, okay? So we need to make sure that we're installing a 32-bit package. And I'm just going to bring that up. I could have done the experiment that said, hey, look, it failed, but I don't want to go through all of that right now. Okay, so... Right. Okay. Because we didn't write the code in the program to look both 64-bit, 32-bit, because it's only a 30-bit program in this case. All right. So we have a 32-bit MSI. Now, let's bring up our very powerful weapon here, the sandbox. Bring it up. Okay. Program files. There's the Dojo. We're in episode 17. The community package is built in the bin x86. Debug, the in-US one is what we're dealing with, and here's our community package. Let's install it. This, by the way, is program files x86. We can see that we're in the Dojo community package, so our name, our manufacturer name, plus our, and we have our console app. Moment of truth. Ready?
Right. Yep.
Right. Welcome to the community console app 1.
Nice.
Beautiful. Right? Perfect. Okay. Now, we'll close all this up and we're done. Now, let's create our enterprise package real quick. We'll go ahead and do that. Add new project, another MSI package, enterprise package. Remember the days when we used to do these by hand where we create all the pieces ourselves? Like all those files and everything like that? It's a lot easier now, isn't it? Okay, I'm gonna go into the package. Just let the template take care of it for me. Tilde enterprise and tilde dojo. Okay. Now we have this other MSI, and it's now we have to go into the example components, and now we need to create both of these. So here's the community one on the right. I don't think I'm gonna have enough vertical space. Maybe. Right, so here's the community one, and here's the enterprise one. I could go through the work of duplicating all this, and then anytime we change it, we'd have to manage the fact that, oh, the reg key, let's say they decided to change the reg key in this code, program.cs, to something else. Then we'd have to go and remember to go update it in 2 places.
Right.
We have a solution to that. We're going to create a library now. So instead of having to maintain it separately, I'm going to create a WiX library here, and we're going to call this console app1 library. All right?
Right.
And we're going to take all the common stuff and put it in there, which is basically everything in this example components. I've saved the file this time. Remember all those problems we had with me not saving files?
Yes.
All right, can I just drag this? Ooh, living dangerously. Don't know if it's gonna like that. It did, but it didn't delete it. It just copied it, which is fine. Okay, I copied it. I will delete the other one. And I don't need an enterprise because we're gonna use a shared version of it. Don't need the library. Library doesn't need any localization. We're down to just this one example, right?
Okay. Yep.
Yep, okay. Now, due to a bug that I'm still on RC1, I haven't updated. I need to set this based off that other thing to make sure that our files get included. I need to add a project reference from the console app library to the console app to make sure that my library has the file that it's going to bind into. Oh, that was strange. Did I mistype that? I must have mistyped that. Okay. Right, so now my library is going to build my console app 1 before I attempt to get all the files and put them in here. Okay.
Right.
I got rid of example projects, so let's go ahead so let's go ahead and build community package. Oh, 1 succeeded, 1 failed. Why did that? I expected that to fail. There we go. Community package now fails. Why does it fail? Because we took the example components out of community and we put them into the console library here. So this community package doesn't have that library anymore. We have a reference to console app 1. We need a reference to
the library.
The library to get the setup logic.
Yep.
There we go. And we had this problem before where it wouldn't pick that up the first time. But if I build community now, will it work? Yeah, now it's fine. Okay. Yeah, this is a thing. 64-bit component, but does okay. There's our build configuration manager. Yeah, all right. See, we're building our library 64-bit. We want to build that as x86. We want to build that as x86. There we go. Everybody's building as x86 now. That's what those errors were telling me. Okay.
Okay.
All right. This is what. That's mixing and matching. All right. Now our enterprise package needs a component group. It needs to satisfy this example components here to the library. So we have to add a dependency there to our console app library. Now if we build this, yay, we're nice and clean. And we build this. Whoop, still building. We build this. Community 1. And that's going to be hopefully happy. There. Okay. So what we have here is community package depends on console app library 1. Enterprise package depends on console app library 1. And console app library depends on the console app 1.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. It's a lot of setup to get this layering, all these different pieces all hooked up. All right. So we have 2 different installation packages that you can imagine community and enterprise containing more and more differences as they go. Right now we only have 1 library. The 2 of them depend on the library so that we can have the logic about our console app 1 and all that it needs right here wrapped up in this nice little ball. All right. So let's bring our sandbox back. Zoom, zoom. Okay. All right. There's episode 17 and x86. Great. So which one do you want to install first, community or enterprise?
The community.
All right, back to community. Bin, x86, debug, enus. Here's our package just now built. Do the thing. There it is. That's good. And if we run it, it says, welcome to the community. Woohoo! Cool, right?
Right.
How about we uninstall that? Okay, it's gone. Why is it not letting my window come back? There we go. And let's go do enterprise now.
All right.
Should we go look at the reg key first?
Yeah, actually.
All right, let's go look at our reg key.
You don't have the reg
Yes.
come up on startup anymore, do you?
I don't. I could. I was thinking, yeah, maybe we could, maybe we shouldn't. All right. So here we are in WoW 64 node under software because it's a 32-bit process, so it's going to be in here. There's no Dojo here, and we also don't see any Dojo here.
Yep.
All right. So that's to be expected. But we're going to install Enterprise now. x86 debug enus Enterprise package. Ready?
Ready.
First time doing this one. Hopefully it works. There's Enterprise package. There's Enterprise package. That looks good. If we do a refresh of our keys here, we will see that Dojo showed up, right? So in the 32-bit WoW, Dojo showed up. That's great. So we go in here and we run our app, right? And it says community. We installed Enterprise. So what's the problem?
I'm not sure. We'll have to look.
The registry key is community still. Is the registry really still community?
Oh, no.
Yeah. It's hard-coded.
Yep.
Which brings us to our lesson today. After all those bits
yeah.
and pieces and a fast-forward kind of review of all the things we've been doing with libraries and stuff like that, totally fine if you're not comfortable with them yet. It's also still a little bit hard to motivate. You're like, this is a whole lot of work for not a lot of value, but it does a lot more value when you get bigger. We need to put a variable here, right? That needs to be different whether we're in community package or enterprise package.
Right.
All right. So let's do that real quick. And all right. We have two ways of doing this. I'm going to show the one that most people will think of first, David. When I said variables, we had preprocessor variables, we had loc variables, we have directories, but we have properties, right? Now, if we want to change this, but it's in the library, so we can't use a preprocessor variable because the library gets built one time. It doesn't get built two times, so it can't have two values. So we can't use a preprocessor variable, but we could use a property, right? Because a property is valued at runtime.
Right.
So let's do that. We'll call it Dojo type. There we go. We'll just call it Dojo type. Remember square brackets to say I want the value of this property.
Yes.
Now we come over to our community package and we have to define the value for that. How do you do that? Well, it's pretty self-explanatory. Our ID equals Dojo type value equals, is this community? Community.
Yes.
All right. Over in enterprise, his package. This is enterprise package. Yep, enterprise package. Enterprise, right?
Right.
Okay, I'm now going to build the solution, please, and we're going to see everything rebuilt. Library rebuilds. That was very fast. And there's one MSI built. The enterprise built first, and the community built second. Everything 3 succeeded, no problems. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Here we go. Back to sandbox. I'm not going to look at the reg key. I know we could look at the reg key, but we're just going to run the app.
Okay.
YOLO. Doesn't sound right, does it? No, I can't pull that off. Okay. All right. Episode 17, program files, comment files. There we go. Your choice. Which one?
Whatever one's closest to the top.
Community.
Community.
We're doing community. Now, we have changed quite a bit, right? We're now using a property to build this. So run the community. Zoom. There we go. Community package. Hopefully we get a value. Community. Good.
Yep.
As expected. I do wish to see would auto refresh for me, but it doesn't. It's not as cool as Explorer when it auto refreshes. It's just a neat experience. Like, poof, gone. Anyway, I always have to hit the F5 button. All right. x86, debug, enus, enterprise package. Ready?
Ready.
Zoom. All right. Enterprise folder. If we run it, Enterprise console app 1. Woohoo! We fixed the bug. Yay.
Nice.
Right? Very
Yes.
good. Very good.
Right.
It's like, yeah, that totally makes sense. We had a single reg key. We changed it one place. We need to set it twice. And what we did was we set a property in our MSI on the enterprise side. We set a property in our MSI, other MSI on the community side. And then that property gets evaluated when the MSI is being installed to, and then it can set that reg key value, which we have with this variable right. No, I lost it. Example components. I have too many files open. This one.
Right over there. Yes.
Right there, that value. Okay, and this totally works fine. This is a completely reasonable way of solving it. Now let's go into the mission of today. We're going to do kata 1.
Okay.
Kata 1. This is fine. What happens if we don't define that property? I'm going
Does it build?
All right, that's a good question. I'm going to take it out. I'm going to take it out of both of them. Okay?
Okay.
Not setting a value. And then I'm going to build the solution. Different way of building solution, same thing. All right, see it's going through, build our library. Probably skipped the library actually so fast, but you could tell it's taking a little bit of doing the build and the validation of our two MSIs.
Right.
All right, great. So we have no properties defined, but it built. But we still need that property. So what's it going to be? What's the value going to be?
I don't know. Default? I'm not sure.
Blank. It's going to be blank.
Okay.
And then we're going to get the program is going to give us our default value, right? So we'll still have a reg key, but there's going to be no value. And I'm just going to show real quick what this does.
Okay.
Before we're going to go find the case of what we really want it to do. We want it to fail if that value is not there, right?
Right.
Like we would like a build time failure if, for example, we were creating, let's say we were creating professional after creating both community and enterprise. I'll start with enterprise. Bin, x86, debug, enus, enterprise package. Please wait. There's Dojo Enterprise, and we run it, and console app says blank. I don't know where the window went. I'll run it again. Right. Welcome to the blank console app.
Right.
Right? Because the value is blank. Let's regedit. Bring it back up in regedit. Local machine, software, wow 64. There's the key. There's the value, but it's blank. Okay?
Okay. All right.
All right. So what we have here, using the property worked, and we felt it's like, yay, very successful, but we have an inherent problem. All right. So let's introduce a variable that doesn't happen at the very beginning of compile that we can't use for a library because it gets compiled one time. It only gets built one time. We want a variable that we can change at the very end of the process in the last minute so that we can switch it out every time we use that library. That's called a bind library, a bind value, a bind variable.
Bind variable, not a bind library, right?
No, a bind. I saw the word library and I said it. All right, so let's call this bind.dojo type. Or sorry, WiX. I want to change these names here, but I think we stayed with this in WiX 4. So now this syntax, does this look familiar? This bang parent syntax? That's the same as our loc. Okay? Because loc happens late in the build process. Do you remember what variables look like for preprocessors? For the preprocessor?
No, which ones were $1? Yeah.
It was $. Okay? I know it's a little bit cryptic, but it's a way that you can remember. The $. Variables get replaced during build time. Early in the build, the bang ones get replaced later. All right? Okay. So now what we have is we've said we have this WiX variable called Dojo type. Okay? Let's just build a solution with that. Boom. The bind variable Dojo type is unknown. Please ensure that the variable is declared in the command line or use the inline syntax. All right?
Okay.
Great. So we need to now go add. So we got an error that says, hey, this bind variable is unknown. You need to define it. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to go back to, which one is this? This is enterprise?
Yep.
WiX variable ID equals, what do we call it? Dojo type?
Yep.
Value equals enterprise. Get that right. And then we'll go over to our community. We're going to put it in here, Dojo type community. Then I'm going to build the solution again.
So the bind variables are declared by using WiX variables in the other packages.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Bob pointed out the message says bind variables, so something got disconnected there. I'm gonna have to go look at that. We may have found a bug there. I was hoping nobody would notice, but I took a mental note that the error message said bind variable instead of WiX variable. We went through this mental gymnastics late in V4 to go, oh, well, really, WiX variables should really be called bind variables. And then I think I hit enough things late that I was unwilling to make the leap to a whole new syntax for it. So these are bind variables. They happened very late. Notice our build happened, everything worked this time. Okay?
Right.
So this code is in this library. It was built one time. It did not build multiple times. It was in the process of that library being included into the enterprise project package, into the enterprise package, got included. Then it said, hey, I'm going to need this to be used, so you have to define it. And it turns out enterprise had a WiX variable waiting for it. And
Makes sense.
The community one did the same thing there. All right, so I've built. Let's go back and try to install and verify that it worked this time.
Okay.
We're going to bring up enterprise. We did community twice. We'll do enterprise twice. Make sure it doesn't feel left out. What are we expecting to see in the UI?
The enterprise console app 1.
Yes, that's what we want to see. Bin x86 debug in US enterprise package zoom. There it is, and run it, and woo!
There it is.
Enterprise console app 1. And what's important again about this is that one, we get the build time checking to make sure that variable is set and is not skipped over, and we also get the advantage that we don't have a variable being evaluated at install time. That value has been replaced inside the MSI. It is hard coded to enterprise, right? So we don't have to do a runtime calculation. Not that it's a long runtime calculation, not that the Windows installer is slow, but it's just one less thing that the Windows installer has to go at install time. Oh, you have a variable here. Let me go look that variable up. Why does it need to do that install time if we know what the value is going to be? That's where a bind variable can be very helpful in these situations.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. So you can think of it as a slight efficiency improvement, performance improvement of your installation packages. It's not something I would optimize like massively. You're not going to get big wins, I guess, unless you have a lot. Maybe if you have a lot of them, I don't know. It's not going to be big wins, but the build validation is also good too.
Right.
To know that, oh, I have to set this variable. All right. Cool. And there's a community one. All right. Ta-da! Sparring, David.
Amazing.
Anything else you want to... Any questions, things that I've kind of gone through? We did a lot of created a whole bunch of projects, hooked them all together, glued them all together, hopefully gave a quick refresher on libraries, and then we introduced a bind variable, also known these WiX variables, as a variable you can replace inside the library.
Right. I guess is in general, the difference between the properties, using a property or versus using a bind variable, is there like a rule of thumb that you could say, okay, well, I need I kind of attack this setup problem with this versus that.
Yep. If it's static, if it's a build time thing, use a preprocessor variable or a bind variable, right? So if it's a preprocessor, it needs to be established way up front. A preprocessor variable works just fine. If you want to have more control, if you want to be able to change the variable later, use a preprocessor or a bind variable. All right. Mm-hmm. If it's built in the MSI, do that. If you want a runtime value to change, and we haven't talked about situations where you want that, but you want to be able to set it on the command line to the Windows installer when you're installing it, or if you want to, we will have cases when we get more advanced, you can actually make changes inside your install while it's happening. All those install time variables are properties.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, So one more thing. I want to do one more thing. Sorry, I had to let the cat out and then came back. All right, one more little thing I want to add. If we have, we're gonna go 1 minute over. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good.
Good.
Let's say we didn't want to have a break if someone didn't provide this value. Let's say we had a default value that we wanted to provide, so that in like we only set it in enterprise cases, but we don't want to set it in community.
The dojo type.
Yeah, the dojo type, right?
Okay.
Let's say that we wanted this to always be set to, unknown, right? Just default the value to unknown if nobody set it.
As opposed to the blank. Okay.
As opposed to you must provide me a value.
Oh, right. The bind variable you have to put something.
Exactly, you have to. So let's say I want to give it a default value. All right.
Okay.
So I'm going to say equals unknown. And I have gone to that's enterprise. I have gone to my community and I have removed my WiX variable. This should build because I now have a default value. Okay. See, everything's building, chunking along, doing the static validation, which is most of this time is actually in static validation. All right, there. So I'm going to bring up Sandbox real quick.
So community should be unknown console app 1.
Right, exactly. Okay, now this was not the scenario we wanted up front, right? We like the fact that it would break if you didn't define the variable. But let's say you're interested in a new one and you're like, I just want this to be unknown for anybody that hasn't set it, and we'll, for all the people that did set it, that's fine. Community, we'll do community. That's the one that matters.
Yeah.
x86, debug, ENUS, install community. Dojo community package shows up here, console app 1 shows up, and there's unknown.
Yep.
Cool. So you can also set properties in the back. It default. I was trying to click on the window back here. I better close the sandbox or I'm gonna run into trouble here. I always forget to close the sandbox and it doesn't want to start again. There we go. So you can set a variable on bind variables to if you want. And when you start building libraries that are like reusable code that you want to share with other people, this default can sometimes turn to be a really handy thing. If you want to overwrite it, you can. If you don't, that's fine. We'll just use this default value. So it creates an API of sorts as you start building your setup from there.
Okay. Makes sense.
So you can start thinking, wow, I could write a library for anything and then share it with other people, right? And then they could just do a component group ref or whatever to pull your code straight into their installation package. And that's what libraries are. And you have one more tool, one more variable in the mix to do that.
Right.
Cool?
Cool.
Yeah, all right. So I think we're done for the day. That's variables. I think Bob picked up. Javier asked this question, can we change the default location, say D drive? Should we use variables for that? So, and Bob pointed out that directories are different. So the variables we're talking about here, and I think I'm going to do a refresher maybe next session. All of the variables have different timings that they get resolved. So you have preprocessor variables, you have loc variables, you have bind variables. All three of those happen in the build time. And then you have directories and properties that are set at install time. And the way that you configure those, the install time are based on the logic that you put inside your thing. So they're separate, and you cannot use a bind variable to change the value of a directory at install time. Does that make sense? You cannot use a bind variable at install time because it's already been baked into the MSI.
Okay.
It got built in. A preprocessor variable got built into the MSI. A loc variable has already been built into that localization of that MSI. If you want to change it, you have to use a property or a directory at install time. And there are ways of doing that, but we've not talked about changing the directories or doing lots of configuration except on the command line, right?
Right.
You remember what's special about the ID if you want to be able to set the property or the directory from the command line?
No. Refresh my memory.
Has to be all caps.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Refresher back to 5 episodes? It's been a bit.
Yeah.
And the same for properties, which is why when we had Dojo type here, I made sure, not this one, but when we had the property. Actually, I just do this. I made sure that it was mixed case, so it could not be set from the command line. Okay.
Gotcha. Yep.
And people get this mixed up all the time. They're like, well, when does this happen? Like, when do these two things happen? When does property get evaluated? At install time. When does WiX variable get evaluated? It gets evaluated at build time, late in the build process. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So that's kind of what I want to drill home with all these variables so people could kind of go through this series and be like, oh, I finally get the difference between each of these different kind of properties. All right. Do one more thing because this bugs me. If I close the solution, save it, and then I reopen the solution, watch. See,
This little
it fixes
warning.
it. It fixes my little yellow icons that's been bugging me. Anyway, that's a heat wave bug. We'll get it hopefully in RC2. RC2 comes out this Friday. So you only got today, the rest of today, Thursday, and Friday, and RC2 comes out. A lot of bug fixes, a lot of things cleaned up in that. RC2 is going to be a good one, I think. So we'll be on RC2 next week, David. Sound good?
Nice. Sounds good.
Yeah, new heat wave too. That'll be good too, because there's a lot of bug fixes I want in that as well. So anyway, we'll be back next week, next Wednesday, same time, 12:30 on Wednesday, Pacific time, also known as Fire Giant time. And until then, all of you guys have a wonderful week. Later.
See ya.